If you watch my latest video, you know that I got myself into a little bit of a predicament. And in this video, we're gonna talk about how I got myself there. So to set the stage, Derek and I had left from Vidalia. We were coming to fly the Oconee River and work our way down to the Altamaha. The river is extremely low. Is that an alligator? Sorry about that, ADD. Not really FA. I was sitting here filming and happened to look over and there was a baby alligator floating by. It's pretty neat. Anyway, we were working our way down to the Altamaha River. Like I said, the river is extremely low right now. The sandbars are everywhere. For a backcountry pilot, for you and me, hey, this is a playground. We had jumped out and landed several bars, a couple of them that we had never landed before. So we found us a new bar that I don't know that the crew has landed before. As you saw on one of them, I jokingly challenged Cletus McFarland to bring that carbon cub and join us here in South Georgia and put that thing to work. So Cleet, listen, you're in Florida, we're in South Georgia, we're not that far apart. I think you need to bring your carbon cub. Now I haven't heard from you, Cleet, yet, but I think you'd enjoy it. I think you need to hit me up, let's go flying. So while we were flying, we eventually got down to the Altamaha and we actually heard Robert and Tony flying in from Statesboro area.
Hey Brian, you up?
Yeah, we're up. Where y'all at?
We're about 10 minutes out, headed to the big river.
And they were coming down to fly bars. So we said, hey, we'll land on this bar that they were familiar with because we had landed it together before. And we said, hey, we'll shut down, find a shade tree and wait on them there. We had landed this bar before. It's long, it's smooth, should be no obstacles, right? Right, well, nothing's ever that simple in life. What's so disappointing about this experience is, you know, I can remember as I was filming Derek coming into land, in my mind, I noted that there were some tire ruts where a vehicle had not been out there doing donuts like, you know, some of the bars. It looks like they had simply just went out and drove around and come back. And I told myself, I need to be careful and just make sure I'm watching out for those tire ruts, right? They didn't seem to be that deep, but nonetheless, I need to be watching for them. This was kind of a perfect storm building, right? So I come in, I got my speeds down perfect, and when I tell you perfect, I can remember flying this approach into this bar, and I thought, man, this is a stable approach. I mean, my speeds were just right on the money. It felt good to me. So I come in, saw the bar, Andy and Derek were both out of the way, come down, and right before touchdown, I gave it just a little juice of power to just settle that descent. And when I tell you I touched down smooth, it was a great landing. And I think that Derek, Andy, y'all can jump down in the comments and roast me if I'm telling a lie, but it felt like a very good touchdown. As a matter of fact, it was so good of a touchdown. My speeds were so slow and it was so smooth that I forgot all about those ruts that from the vehicle that I was just telling myself to watch out for. My brain immediately went to, oh man, I am so slow, I'm gonna get on the brakes and I'm gonna see just how short I can get this thing stopped. Because in my mind, it felt like I was gonna be stopped in 100 feet or less. That may not be accurate, but to me, it was just that good of an approach that I felt like I was gonna smash it. You know. So let's pause right there and let's talk about two things. Number one, back last year, I had to replace my battery and I put an EarthX battery in the tail of the Avid. In my aircraft, that's where the battery is at, is in the very end in the tail. When I went to an EarthX battery, listen, this is no complaint about EarthX battery. It is, the cranking power is phenomenal. I've had zero problems out of it. It's an awesome battery. I'm glad I made the change. It's lightweight, but one of the things is because I took that extra weight out of my tail by getting a lighter battery, the Avid already flew a little bit of nose heavy. Even though the Jabiru 2200 is a fairly light engine, I would think, compared to a Subaru or anything like that. So typically when I fly, I put stuff in my little homemade baggage compartment that's behind the seat just to add a little bit of weight back there so that when I'm flying, I'm not having to fly with back pressure. So ingredient number one is I had an extremely light tail. Number 2, so as I'm getting on the brakes and I am getting myself stopped, I'm coming up short, I'm feeling so good about it. I'm about to really impress Andy and Derek with my short landing skill.
I'm not impressed by your performance.
I mean, I'm at the point now where I think I'm about to give Andy a run for his money in his Super Stoke. So as I'm on the brakes, not extremely hard, but enough that I can feel that tail's trying to lift up on me. And then my tires fall into the ruts from that vehicle that had been driving on the sandbar. When my tires fell down into the rut, it was all geometry after that. Because I was so slow, I didn't have enough forward momentum to roll me out of that vehicle rut. So the tires fell in and stopped, and my tail come up, and once I felt it coming up, there was no turning back. It was almost that instant of, oh my God, what's happening? It was over with. Now backing up just a tad, what I originally thought happened was, I thought I was getting on the brakes too hard. This soft sand on these bars, I felt like I maybe had skid, and that dirt built up in front of the tires, and that's what flipped me over. But I did have 2 cameras rolling at the time of the incident. One was obviously the camera that you saw the footage from of my cockpit, and the camera was rolling that I have on the back of the plane. The camera view I wish I had was, as you know, I always have a camera angle on the on my right wing, but unfortunately the battery died looks like probably 60 seconds before the incident took place. So as I went back and was watching this video footage, I actually was trying to look at, hey, you know, what happened? Trying to piece it together. That's when I saw that it was not me skidding and the sand building up in front of the tires that created that chalk that made me flip. It was just simply my tires fell down into the rut. I didn't have enough forward momentum to push me out of them. So they locked in place, the tail come up, and with it already being nose heavy, there was no turning back. Those ingredients added together that I ended up on my nose in the Avid Flyer. You know, when it happened, I remember I was strapped in, obviously. I've got a shoulder strap in the Avid, which again, I'm thankful I had. But I can remember looking up, and at this point, obviously, I'm looking out at the top of the airplane. I've got plexiglass at the top, so it's clear. I look out of the top of the plane, and Andy's looking at me like, what just happened? And I think I'm looking at him like, what just happened? So I paused for a moment, and then I thought, all right, oil is probably leaking, fuel maybe, I don't know. Just, I started hitting switches to turn everything off and tried to get out. Now with that being said, I will note this about landing on my nose. It was extremely uneventful. And what I mean is, it went up so slow that the impact was almost nothing. And when I mean almost nothing, I had absolute no damage to the cowling of the Avid. Not a crack, not a scratch, literally 0 damage. The other big thing that I was worried about, obviously, is, you know, as a pilot, when you have an incident like this, the one thing that you're worried about is a prop strike. After I got out of the aircraft, Andy and Derek went. I jumped up, tried to grab the tail. They lifted the front cowling, and luckily the Avid is so light, it was easy to stand back down like it was supposed to be in this position. Now, out of all those ingredients to come together to make a bad incident, and now let me tell you about a couple positives. Number one is I had a shoulder strap, right? So I didn't have to worry about falling forward. Even to the point that I don't know that it was even necessary, because again, the impact with the ground was so minor, it almost, again, was uneventful. In my brain, I thought it would have been much more violent than that. I don't know what I was expecting, but it simply just nosed over and come to a stop on the nose, and that was it. The other positive is when I was coming in and on the brakes, I was completely backed out of the throttle. It was at absolute idle. All that being said is, the engine was as absolute low of RPM as it could be when it hit the sand. The other positive is I was not in a bar like Kenneth's bar that has a lot of rocks. This was all extremely soft sand. So when my prop hit, it literally did no damage to the prop. And when I tell you no damage, I still can't figure out how this happened. I don't have a single scratch on my prop, and I have a wooden prop, and there is not a single scratch on my prop. So no scratches on the cowling, no scratches on the prop. You cannot look at it and tell that it ever hit the sand. Obviously, I know there's still some concerns about the internal components of the engine, right? As you can see, I'm out flying again. After some engine maintenance and getting everything looked at and taken care of, come to find out, I got extremely lucky. All right, so what's some takeaways from this? Number one, I should have been paying attention to the red flags, right? I saw the vehicle ruts on the sandbar when I did my overpass. I saw them. I told myself consciously to look out for them. But again, being distracted by that, what seemed like such a perfect approach, I think in my brain I was getting stopped so short that the vehicle ruts were not even a factor. Obviously they were. So what's takeaway number two? Tony Zorn, you've been preaching this to me for a while, 2 years now, since I got the Avid, that I needed bigger tires. These are 21-inch tires, went from the 22 to the 21 when I upgraded to the brakes. Tony, you're right. Would it have made a difference? I think so. Simply because the bigger radius of the tire, obviously I would have felt my plane hit those ruts in the sandbar from the vehicle, but my tire would have been big enough that it would not have gotten lodged down in it. I need to, number one, pay attention to the red flags, right? I knew the vehicle ruts were there. I should have made that a priority to keep that in mind. Number two, I need bigger tires. Anybody, if you're watching this, you've got a used set of, I'm really interested in the 27.5-inch Aero Classic Tundra tires. I have an 8-inch wheel, so Alaska Bush wheels are not really an option without having to spend the money to swap out the wheels. Plus, the Aero Classics are lighter than Alaska Bush wheel, so that'll save me some weight. But nonetheless, if you've got a used set of Aero Classic Tundra tires, let me know, send me a message or drop it in the comments. I'll reach out to you. My engine is extremely healthy. My cowling is untouched. My prop is untouched. I'm thanking the good Lord, number one, that he watched after me, and number two, that I have no damage to the airplane. That means I'm back in business. One last thing before we get out of here. In the last couple of my videos, I never pushed this because to me it feels awkward. Some of you discovered the Super Thanks feature on YouTube. And what that is if you, not that it's got to be me, whether it's Cletus McFarland, Trent Palmer, Jonas Marcinko, Corey Robin, any of those guys, any of the content creators that you follow, you have the ability to buy Super Thanks. And that's literally a way of you making a monetary contribution to their channel and supporting their cause. I do this as a hobby and for fun and sharing aviation, not trying to become a millionaire or a full-time content creator. With that being said, several of you have found that feature and have been purchasing Super Thanks, and that's a direct contribution to furthering the content that we share. So thank you very much to you guys. And if all this is new to you and you don't know what I'm talking about or what video I'm referencing, and when I nosed it over, here it is right here. Click on it and you can watch it.